You want to switch?
Hello, everybody. Happy New Year. Man, I hope everybody's having a great 2018. I hadn't had any New Year's resolutions because I would have already broken them by now. But I'm excited about starting off another year, kick off the Mo Show for 2018. You know, many of you guys know that one of the things I really love doing, and my wife and I enjoy doing together, is going to comedy shows, listening to comedians, and I love a good morning show in the morning to kind of get me going and kick me in the pants and get me in a good mood in the morning. So I think today's guests fit all of those molds, and I think they're going to be really great guests for everybody to enjoy and listen to. And I'll promise, I'll do my best to keep us on the train tracks, but I bet it won't happen. But again, I'm Morris Lilienthal, and welcome to the Mo Show Live. And before we get started and introduce today's guest, I just want to remind everybody, please like and share the show. If you happen to be watching to the live show right now, you can comment in the comments below. I'll do my best to watch the live feed on Facebook and chime in with our guests with any comments or questions for them. And we'll get started, guys. So today's guests are the host of the Jimbo and Casio show on Rocket 95.1 here in Huntsville, Alabama. Their show began in August of 2012. The show's a great mix of stories, skits, guests, impressions, and music. Together, these guys have over 50 years in the radio and entertainment business. Jimbo is a graduate of Mountain Brook High School, and Casio is a graduate of Emma Sampson High School. So I think I know who the brains in the bunch is here. And so, guys, I want to thank you guys so much for being on the show. How are you guys doing this morning?
We're doing good.
Doing good. Glad to be here. I was wondering what morning show you were talking about earlier.
Yeah, that was a huge build-up for our show.
Well, I appreciate you guys giving me a shout-out this morning because that was more than a huge build-up for me. I was waiting for the wigs and the mask or the PBR hat, and maybe you're going to break it out here in a minute.
Oh, dang it, I forgot the PBR hat.
Our boss said, look kind of respectable when you go out in public, so he had to keep it. As you can see, we're broadcasting from my living room. I have these cultured paintings in my living room.
Well, I want to thank you guys so much.
Man, thank you for having us, man. We're excited to be here, and hopefully we'll have a good time today. I told Jimbo coming in to this place, I feel like it's that old Cops episode where they promised everybody TVs, but it was really people that had warrants. Oh. And they got them all in the conference room and said, congratulations, you win a 6-year stay at the county jail. I figure me and Jimbo's about to get subpoenaed for something.
Any second.
Jimbo, scoot in here. Let's be friends. I can see half your face.
Oh, sorry.
Well, we'll save that part for the end of the show. I want to get as much out of you as I can before we get to that part of the show.
Views first.
That's right. So, again, thanks so much, guys. And again, if you got questions or comments, just put it in the post down below. Well, for those of you guys know, I'm so internationally known here with the Mo Show, as you know, that I do have guests from, that may be viewing outside of Huntsville. So for those of you who don't know your show or a little bit about each of you, Jimbo, could we just start with you? Tell us a little bit about your background in radio and entertainment business.
Yeah, I've been doing it for 37 years. I started in 1980, and I've been pretty much all over the country doing radio. I started in Birmingham. You mentioned I was from Birmingham. That's a fact. I started there at WERC AM as a sales intern, and about 3 months later, ended up in the programming side and had found my home in radio on the talky side instead of the selly side. So that continued on until this very day. That's taken me through New Orleans, Memphis, through San Jose, California, all over the place doing radio, just about everywhere you can do it, which is how we had to do it back then. You didn't just start at one station and live your whole career there in that one town. You didn't do that back then. In order to yourself to move to the next best shift, you had to actually move to another city. And so I kept doing that and doing that and doing that. One time, I did 8 times in 10 years. It was quite unnerving. But that's, I was young and could handle it. And it was good back then. I don't know if I could live that lifestyle anymore, to be honest with you.
Well, I know I was in bed at 10:30 on New Year's Eve, so I know that I can't do what I could do back in the day. And I know that we left Las Vegas the other day intentionally before New Year's Eve because I know I'm not young enough to handle New Year's Eve in Las Vegas.
Yeah. I don't think I saw midnight on New Year's Eve. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
He hadn't seen midnight in years.
That's a fact.
Well, you guys do a morning show. You guys are up pretty early though, right? What time does your show start?
Jimbo gets up at 4. I cut it close. If there is a traffic light that doesn't turn on time, I'm going to be late for work. Jimbo is the responsible one that gets up and plans ahead, allows for extra time in case something happens. Yeah. I'm like, guys, that was a long red light. I'm late. I'm going to be late. I cut it to the exact second. But yes, when you wake up as early as we do, the late night stuff goes right out the window. You go, I can see my friends later.
Yeah. Well, I understand. I was talking with Ben Smith one time on a previous show, and he was telling me he gets up at 1 a.m. to be at the station at 4, and I'm just like, that's insanity. Well, Casio, tell us a little bit about
that. I couldn't do.
Tell us a little bit about your background and before you came on to Rocket 95.1.
I started in Gadsden, hooked up with the well-known Rick and Bubba show, and they were in Gadsden at the time. My entire life has been kind of right place, right time. Hooked up with them just literally 7 months before the station got bought and moved to Birmingham. And then they got bought again and really started taking off in syndication. I, like Jimbo, started as an intern. I think maybe we'll talk about that later. I think that's one of the different things in radio now is there's not a lot of interns going on. A lot of people in any workforce, I believe. We all had to pay our dues usually. You had to work for free for a while, but you wanted to do that job so much, you did that. But I was an intern on part-time with them. Did whatever I could around the radio station, sales assistant, promotions assistant, car washer, whatever I could do just to be in radio, just to be in whatever, that was what I wanted to do. So I always wanted to be in entertainment. Got class clown, of course, in high school and most school spirit. I think the only break in that was I got sloppy as sophomore, which hadn't changed much. And then after Birmingham, a few years in radio, being young, I decided to go try to make it famous. And so I moved to Los Angeles and took improv school out there, worked production gigs and any kind of, extra work and whatever I could do in Los Angeles. That's when I hooked up with Tonight Show with Jay Leno. I did that for 3 years. And after a while, ended up due to life circumstances, brought me back down south. And, being back in Gadsden, Alabama, where I'm from at the time, not a lot of improv comedy going on in Etowah County.
Not a big scene?
No, not a huge scene there. Just anything funny in general in Etowah County. It's just kind of sad sometimes. But, I decided to get into stand-up just to try to keep the creative juices flowing. And would still sit in with some radio shows. Some people I knew, I'd made contacts, of course, along the years. So I would sit in with some radio shows every now and then. Got into stand-up as I was traveling, being a road dog. Basically, it's kind of like they say it's kind of like a trucker with no benefits. You just travel from city to city, pick up a paycheck, and head to the next city. You just hope you don't die along the way because you can't pay for anything. But
what he has that you and I don't have, Morris, is he's got a shampoo from every hotel in America.
I haven't paid for shampoo or soap in 7 years. Due to the free samples I take from hotels. So then during stand-up, you being a comedian, you have to go do the local radio gig some more. So I loved it. A lot of comedians hate doing that, getting up early and doing the, promoting your show on the radio. But I loved it because I was kind of back in radio. And you get that radio bug, it kind of never goes away from you. So I sat in, ended up sitting in with a guy here in Huntsville on a sports station called Kubelik, and he said, man, when you're not on the road, sit in on my sports show. And I said, well, I don't know anything about, I know about sports as a fan, but not enough I'm not breaking down X's and O's like you, Cole. But he said, well, good. Well, in the summer, there's no football. We need something to talk about. So anyway, I ended up getting hooked up with him. And I got fired from that station because here's the shocker. I wasn't sports enough, is what they told me. So, luck, right place, right time. Through connections, people started getting in touch with Jimbo. Jimbo just happened to be looking for a morning show partner at the Rocket at the exact same moment. And some people that we both knew contacted him and said, you got to get in touch with this Casio guy. Everybody contacted me and said, you got to get in touch with Jimbo. And just right place, right time. We luckily, a lot of people don't know, or maybe don't think about it in morning show, but to be successful, the first thing is you've got to be able to get along. You got to know your roles. You got to know what you're doing. You got to, there's got to be some kind of partnership. And hey, how are we going to work through this? I got to stare at his face for at least 4 hours, from 6 inches away every day. So if we didn't get along, the show would never last. And I think that's a lot of people don't realize how much work that is to get a morning show to. You can hire anybody you want and sling them together. Doesn't mean they're going to make a good team. It's like any sports. It's like whatever field of work you're in. You've got partners. If you guys didn't get along, didn't have the same work ethic, didn't agree on the same principles, it wouldn't be successful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a fact. That's a true statement.
Well, I think you guys mesh really well together from watching and listening in the mornings, and certainly interacting with you guys outside of the setting when you were emceeing other events. You guys certainly mesh and match together, have good personalities, and you seem to really play off each other well. And as a novice, that enjoys comedy, that's certainly the best comedy acts seem to really to set up each other and play off each other's at best attributes. More nervous, Casio, first time on the Tonight Show or the Mo Show Live?
Mo Show, because I'm expecting subpoenas or warrants or something to come out. So for legal ramifications here. You know what? A lot of people ask about being nervous for a Tonight Show. Just a real, my answer to that is I was nervous my first appearance there, I don't know if anybody saw it. They're not young enough. If the people that are young and know technology, I don't know if they know what Jay Leno was. But, he caught me walking down the street, actually going to improv school, and stopped me to do a segment. I almost didn't stop. Hey, you need to stop, I guess, because they just thought I looked goofy. But they got me to stop. I did the segment, had a great time, and about 6 weeks later, they called and said, hey, the segment you filmed is going to be on air. I was like, cool. They're like, tell your mom and dad, have fun. So that aired, and about another, probably about 3 or 4 months actually went by. They called back, and a guy called at the time named Scott Atwell. He was the casting director for The Tonight Show, and he called my apartment in Los Angeles and said, hey, is this Matt Mitchell? I said, yeah. And he said, this is Scott Atwell. I'm the casting director for The Tonight Show. And we saw your appearance went over really well. We'd love to know if you want to come back and talk to us about doing some things. And I said, who is this? Because it's not Scott Atwell, the casting director for him. I thought it was one of my buddies from Alabama, like trying to play a prank on me. And he started laughing, and he said, if you want, you can call back to the Universal lot. I'll get, you can call and ask the front desk, and they'll patch you through. And I said, I do. As a matter of fact, I do not believe you. So I went through the process. I hung up on the casting director, called him back. They patched me through, and he was laughing the entire time. And he said, you're not the first person to not believe that. So they brought me in, and I was getting a little nervous. They have writers in there, and I didn't know what to expect. And so they basically, as I'm in their office, they started having a little pitch meeting on what my angle could be. And they were like, first rule is whatever you do, don't change your accent. And I said, good, because I can't. If I could, I would have a long time ago. They said, basically, they spent 30 minutes discussing it and decided that I was going to be a redneck trying to make it in California. And I said, well, that's going to be a big stretch since that's exactly what I'm doing. Yeah. But my first actual appearance when the segment went through, we filmed, and I was like, look, I filmed for 7 hours on one day. I'm like, if they can't pull 7 minutes, I'm not funny to begin with. So I'm pretty sure they can find 7 minutes of highlights to make anybody be funny. And the first time I was there, Jay Leno himself actually came in my dressing room and closed the door, and he said, "Are you nervous?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm a little nervous." And he goes, "Okay, well, good. That's what he expected." He said, "But just know the hard part's over. The nervous part should have been over." He goes, "If it wasn't a good bit, it wouldn't be on the air. You had producers, you had writers approve it. I had to approve it. It's now, no matter what happens, you're going to walk outside and you're going to be a rock star to everybody back home. So just have fun and relax." And that was it. I mean, he literally calmed me down. So that's what I tell everybody. I wasn't actually nervous when you saw me there the first time, but I was nervous everywhere in between.
He seems like a great guy that way. Jay Leno just has that air where he would calm the room down.
Fantastic, down-to-earth guy, just hilarious, just an awesome person to be around.
I love watching his Jay Leno's garage and just dreaming that one day I could have one of the cars that he has. But that show's a pretty cool show if you've never watched it. And he always has the same blue shirt on. Real quick, guys, I want to give a shout out to all the people watching: Bernard Nomberg, Mitch Jackson, all the way out in California, Corley Richardson, Blake Garner, Adam Hollingsworth, Natasha Jennings, Amy Johnson, Josh Lennon, Donna Marie, and more. Thanks, guys, so much. We really appreciate you watching. Guys, you were kind of mentioning something a while ago, and I'd be interested to kind of get your perspective on this, having the background and years of experience in entertainment radio business. If you met a young person, I guess, or an old person, that wanted to get into the entertainment business or the radio side of it, what would you tell them? What would be the one or two suggestions, Jimbo, would you say, hey, this is what I think, the piece of wisdom I would share with you?
Well, one of the irresponsible things we as radio employees, people in the radio community, are not doing is taking care of our own, replacing ourselves very well. We just have so much trouble in this day and age with so many devices. Hello, this, the portable everything, Wi-Fi's everywhere. It's just too easy not to listen to the radio anymore. And it wasn't the case back in the day. When he and I became interns, we literally would have done and did whatever they asked us to do, from like Casio said, washing the van to answering phones, whatever it was. We couldn't wait to go spot stickers and do all the stuff, that radio people seemed like they had fun doing, and we did have a great time doing it. The problem today is that there's so many distractions, so many other things that's grabbing kids' attention. It's hard for us to stand out anymore because there's so many options. Back when I did nights, I was coming up as a young radio guy. There were no other things to do at night but listen to the radio, at the time I-95 in Birmingham, and do your homework. That was it.
That was when you got your Ovaltine decoder ring and trying to figure out what Jimbo's code was that night.
Right. And then
a commercial, a crummy commercial.
So now, that's a long way around it, but the bottom line is we're not replacing ourselves very well, and we talk about this a lot at the station. It's hard to go to a college, generally is where we would recruit from. It's hard to go to a college of broadcast students who want to be on the radio. They mainly want to either do news or they want to do something other than be an announcer like we are. We're almost passé. It's almost so old school that it's hard to find anybody. And sadly, if we were to leave or get fired for whatever reason, we'd probably be replaced by some syndicated show. That's just the way the business is now, and that's the sad truth of it. Right now, we're enjoying every day of getting up in Huntsville, broadcasting to Huntsville, meeting people in Huntsville. That to us is so fulfilling and fantastic. The fact is, we're few and far between anymore.
Well, I was going to say that's the other side of that sword. Is we've got it before. There's a myth that some people think that local radio is dying. It's not. If you go to any studies, it's not the case. It will never be the case. That's where you get your local info. Everybody knows growing up, is there a weather something coming on? Listen to the radio. Your power goes out, you got your radio. That's always a big thing, local info, local weather, local traffic, local topics. Now, if you want to if you, like Jimbo said, there's distractions. And the kids now also, the college age kids and even younger, if they want their radio show, they can start their own radio show online. None of us had that access. We didn't go, I want the Jimbo show when I'm 13. I'll just put it on YouTube and hope people listen to it. And I'll play the music I want and I'll talk about what I want. And you might get 2 listeners, you and your mom, or you might actually have something. But they're not going to ditch that. I mean, there's so many fantastic podcasts out there now. But people listen to those in a different time. They listen to their local radio on their drive into work. They want to hear what's going on. They want to hear the local topics. They want to hear school delays. They want to hear the traffic. What are we talking about each morning? What is everybody at the water cooler going to be talking about? And you can't do that if you listen to somebody's podcast in L.A. They're talking about a generic subject. It's entertaining. You can listen to it. To me, I equate it back to NPR. When I travel being a comedian, I listen to NPR a lot because I could pick it up from city to city. It fades out in one city. I could pick it up, but I'd listen to that whole time. But when I'm back at home, I didn't listen to NPR. I listened to whatever my favorite local radio show was. Yeah.
And I remember when satellite first came on the scene, we were all scared to death. We in local radio thought, oh, man, this Sirius XM business, this is going to be the death of us. And what we started hearing that year was, first of all, it doesn't sound as good audio quality-wise. Second, like he just said, what's my weather? Where, what's the deal with the tornado? What was it? I heard something about some kind of threatening weather this afternoon. How will I know that if I'm listening to XM or whatever satellite? So satellite did not become the big the big foe that we thought it was going to be. We work pretty hand in hand with satellite.
And it's also the same. Sorry, I hope we're not going too long. But it's also the same with local advertisers. Local companies want local people to hear their product. If you got a concert in town, you've got a law firm in town. How are you getting the word out to the people that live in, for example, Huntsville? How do you find those people? You're not finding them on satellite. Every mom and pop store can't afford satellite. So there's always going to be a place for that. That is always why local radio, terrestrial radio, is always going to work. And look, I say that, and we don't know the future. Something's going to happen. But to me, I think that's why it'll always be there.
We need young people to take our place, though. If anybody's watching this with kids who are interested, we're glad to train. We're always looking for interns. Can't get paid money, but you get paid experience.
Well, a couple of things I'll just chime in on that. And one is being local. I think, you connect with the local audience, that you can comment on certain things that are local that just connect with somebody in your audience. And when you're commenting either about local events, about something going on at Stand Up Live or whatever, but even just funny things that if there's something in the local community that you really know because you're in that community, you connect with whatever that kind of joke is. For example, when we started out the show, I'd say my friends out west that may be watching the show aren't probably going to connect with the Mountain Brook reference, but people here in Alabama know that that's traditionally a very well-recognized top school system in the state of Alabama. And whereas, Casio basically left a trail that closed his school down there. And so they did my homework, right? But I know Emma Sampson, for those who don't know, that school system combined into one school, and so Casio's school is no longer in existence. But one thing I did want to bring out before I wanted to hit some rapid-fire funds, try to hit some rapid-fire stuff, was I really want to let everybody know that you guys, and I think this dovetails into what we were just talking about, which is why local radio is so important, is you guys are so giving. You guys are very involved in the local community. You give back of your time, your MCs at local events, and working through and involved with, Jimbo, I know you're very involved with Space and Rocket Center, which is a big part of our community here in Huntsville. But, to let everybody in the audience know how I met these guys was through my work and their work with the local March of Dimes chapter. And I don't want to get down that road too much, but I just want to thank you for your work with the March of Dimes, for emceeing events, for spreading the word, allowing the local March of Dimes folks to come on at various times of the year to spread the word about the important work they're doing. But tell me a minute, just real quick, why is it so important for you guys to be involved in the community, and why do you make that part of your show and part of who you are at the radio station?
Because that's what we are. We're a part of this fabric, and we're a part of this community. We buy groceries at the same grocery store as everybody else, and we see you on the street. We meet you downtown. There's no reason to be segregated from that. We want to be as involved in local activities as possible. Yes, it's good for our branding of our radio station. That's the business side of it, but also it's just good personally. It's good to have relationships. We help, we talk about a lot of different charities and a lot of charitable organizations and their activities, and we're big supporters of veteran programs and those things because it's important to be big supporters of those programs. It's our responsibility as broadcasters and members of the community is the way I think about it.
Well, we say it a bunch. We do not take for granted that we have a job that some people seems easy. It's a fun job. I think we've all did all kind of side jobs till we got to this point. I did tile, I did gutters, I did vinyl siding. I feel for the people that are out there doing landscaping in 12-degree weather today.
Big time.
I'm not built for manual labor, and I mean that seriously. I can't do that. I can't be I didn't go into the military, and that's why we try to give back as much as possible. We want to be involved, and we know that there's things out there that affect everybody. That not everybody has had a lucky as life as me and Jimbo, and there's things out there that hit people differently, and we're very involved, like he said, in anything we can be. The Bearded Warriors or March of Dimes. We do a lot with American Cancer Society, the Alzheimer's Association. We try to be involved in whatever we can. A lot of animal shelters. We have an animal shelter in every single week, a nonprofit. That's what makes up a community. That's what makes the community better. And like Jimbo said, it's kind of our responsibility as a local radio person. That's your responsibility, is being a part of the community. How can we all be together, and how can we make this community that we're all living in better?
Yeah, well, and that, I've gotten to know you guys just a little bit, but what I can tell people is that you guys are genuine. You're very real. You're very caring about the community. You're genuinely concerned about what's going on, and I really appreciate your involvement in the community and your works in the various programs that we try to support here at my office, and that, on a personal level, some of the things that I support that touch me personally. Real quick, guys, I want to tell, we've got Chris Thornton, who says Jimbo is the Dick Clark of radio. And we've got a Happy New Year.
The Dick Clark of radio.
The Dick Clark of radio.
Well, if people missed our show this morning and they're not listening to Huntsville, we found out for a fact today that Jimbo is older than the state of Alaska. So
I'm never going to hear the end of that, am I?
The Dick Clark, he'll take Dick Clark. He found out he was older than the state of Alaska.
Yeah.
He's come to some terms today.
Thanks, Chris.
Did you drop the ball at your house? Do you have some kind of mechanism to drop the ball at your house now? I might need to broadcast the next Mo Show Live next year going into 2019. But I think we'd all be asleep. We just have to set it up live and let it go by itself.
Yeah. I'm going to snooze through that one.
Well, real quick, before we let off, I wanted to ask just a couple of fun rapid-fire questions and just get your responses. So first thing I thought was, when I was doing a little research, first of all, everybody, you'll be surprised that neither one of these guys I could find a LinkedIn page for them. So I had to, or Wikipedia. So I think somebody out there needs to create a Wikipedia page for Jimbo and Casio and then post it in the comments and let us know what it says. But I know, Casio, that you worked for the Huntsville Stars, which for everybody that doesn't know is our former minor league baseball team here, as a PA announcer. So if you guys each, we'll start with you, Jimbo, if you were a minor league baseball player, what would your walk-up song be?
Wait, I know that.
Is he batting or pitching?
Yeah, what am I doing?
You're batting.
Oh, you're batting.
Oh, gosh. I think that's going to have to be Enter Sandman.
Whoa.
That's going to have to be something strong.
I didn't see that coming.
Maybe an Avenged Sevenfold song. I'd have to really think about that.
But you're a Tool fan.
Yeah, but there's no Tool that can knock it out of the park. I need energy. Tool's
about,
great.
Roger Waters or some Pink Floyd? He's a Pink Floyd fan.
I'm still thinking I need that power. I saw Metallica live, and I think I need some live Metallica to walk me up to the plate.
We're Jason Isbell. I don't think Alabama Pines is going to be rocking it while we walk up.
No, it's not. No.
I've said before I'd probably go some STP. There was a rock band called Volbeat, called like they're from the '70s. There's a current rock band called Volbeat. They have a song called Warrior's Call, which I always thought would be a great one. And actually, one of the batters at the Huntsville Stars picked it as his walk-up song, and I was thoroughly impressed. And my favorite. There was a relief pitcher for this Huntsville Stars that came out by a walk by Pantera, and he would just walk out slowly to the mound.
Strong.
That was a game changer. I was very impressed with that. But the walk-up song tells a lot about you.
Yeah.
It tells a lot about you. What are you going with, Mo?
I don't know, guys. I should have thought you were coming back with that real quick. So we've got a couple guys that Josh Nunley says they need their own TV show for real! ! Jam and Jeff says you guys rock. All right, a couple more things. So I was listening to the radio, you guys this morning before you went off, and every radio show that I hear has a morning traffic guy or gal. So, and they've always got this clever kind of cheesy name. If you were the traffic guy, Jimbo, what's your traffic guy name?
I had the greatest traffic name in the world was in California.
Who was
What
it?
was his name? You go, and I'll think of it.
This is why he's older than Alaska.
Yeah.
I would. He was actually in California before it was a state. Mine would be Lieutenant Skidmark.
Oh gosh.
What? It's a traffic thing.
I got it.
It's a traffic thing.
I got it. Sure.
Skidmark?
Yeah, I get it.
Okay. Yeah, that would be mine. Probably Sergeant Skidmark. I think that's
Sergeant Skidmark.
Sergeant Skidmark.
That's a good one.
Lieutenant's too long for the radio. You got nothing?
I can't think of the dude's name. There was this guy who had a real one out in California, and it was great. It was
something with screeching accents.
Yeah,
or
like
Crash
stuck in
Bandicoot.
traffic or some kind of
stuck in traffic.
Yeah, some idiot name like that.
There's always a just in time. Always.
just in case.
Just in time is everywhere.
I've actually known a just in case.
Well,
it's not coming to me.
That's okay, no worries. So better hair, if you had to pick one of the hair, Donald Trump or Kim Jong Un?
I think I'd go with Kim's hair.
Wait, do I have to pick the style, or I just get his hair and I can style it?
Now you've got to wear it on your head just like they style.
Just like them.
So it's like
yeah.
okay.
Woo!
I don't know if
with your face.
Look, me and Jimbo both don't have much hair, so first of all, I feel like it'd be an upgrade for me. Either way, I like maybe the Kim Jong. Donald Trump's a weird look. But you're kind of used to it from the front, but if you ever go side or back profile, it's odd.
Have you seen those close-ups of him from the side?
It's weird.
It's got a strange thing happening.
It's going the wrong direction. I don't know what direction it's supposed to be going in, but it's not the direction that it's going in.
Hat helmet.
Yeah, Kim Jong Un. I hate it, but I'd have to go his hair if I had to pick one.
Mm-hmm.
Last serious question before I let you guys go. So, who was all the years you've been doing entertainment and radio, who was your most memorable guest, a person you were most excited to meet, to have on a show or be on a show?
Ooh.
Some of the nicest guys in the music business: Sting, Huey Lewis in the News, David Lee Roth. One of the most giving people I've ever met. He gave of his time, and he gave charitable gifts to some folks in the cancer ward in Birmingham back in the day, back in the 80s. Those three guys were, and more, but those three guys especially stand out always whenever anybody asks me who I enjoyed meeting or spending time with. Those three guys are memorable people who say things straight to your face. They mean them to you. There's no blanket statements, and they pay attention to everybody, and everybody who needed attention, they gave it to. So,
tell them about your fantastic Dave Grohl interview. Tell them where they can hear it.
That's a fun one, yeah. So, Foo Fighters were in town 5 or 6 years ago. This was a while ago, and the record company called. Excuse me, and they occasionally give radio stations promotions. If the radio station is kind to the artist, then the artist will be kind to the radio station when they come around. So the RCA guy called me and he said, hey, I've got a 15-minute one-on-one interview with Dave Grohl.
Come on.
Just you and him. Can you schedule it for the day of the show? And I said, done. Let's roll. Let's do it. So day of the show. Now, the day before this, I went to the store, to the Guitar Center, I think it was, and bought a digital recorder. All right. I'd never had a digital recorder before. It's a recorder that records on a chip, not tape or anything else. So, and this was 5 or 6 years ago, so that was relatively new. And I did not practice with it properly. I'll say that going in. So time comes for me and Dave to sit down, and I'm a little nervous about it. And the handler comes over and he gets me and he puts me in a room, and he goes, "Dave will be here in a second." And I said, "How many other people are going to be here?" And the handler goes, "No, just you and Dave. And I'm going to shut the door. I'm going to stand outside, but it's just you and him." So, and it was. So this happened. Dave sat down. I got my recorder out, made sure it was on, and I had this brilliant series of questions. I had, what are your 10 Desert Island CDs?
Yeah.
I wanted to hear your top 5 artists. I wasn't going to ask stupid Foo Fighters questions. I wanted Dave Grohl questions, right? So I had all this lined up, written down, ready to roll. And we're going, and he's forthcoming, and he's telling great stories. And 15 minutes comes, and the guy knocks on and takes him back to the deal. And I go to listen to my fantastic Dave Grohl interview. I never put it in record. I never put it in record.
Hey, and you can't go back to Dave Grohl and go, "Let's do that awesome interview again."
Hey, I did. At the end of the show, the promoter was a friend of mine, too, from New Orleans, and I went back to his office, and I said, "Hey, I screwed up this Dave Grohl business. Can you get him for 5 more minutes maybe with me?" And he goes, "Dave is gone." The band is history, son.
Oh, man.
So I missed that one. That's one of my road hard and put up wet stories.
He's also really good friends with Jimmy Buffett.
Jimmy Buffett. Jimmy Buffett hates me.
If you had to pick a arch rival for Jimbo, would you ever pick Jimmy Buffett?
No, I would not.
I even taught scuba in the Bahamas on a sailboat, and Jimmy Buffett hates me.
Tell him what you did.
You want to hear the Jimmy Buffett? Have we got time?
Hey, man, there's no airtime here. It's Facebook Live. I'm ready to go.
So Jimmy Buffett. So back in the day, this was back in Birmingham again. Some genius promotion director decided to have a pre-party before the Jimmy Buffett show at Oak Mountain Amphitheater. This is when Oak Mountain Amphitheater was brand new. And I had been tapped as the Oak Mountain Amphitheater MC, sort of, to come on before every show and read the list of acts that's coming up, what tickets are on sale, this concert's coming up, and what have you. So I'm going to go to the pre-party as representative of the station, and at the pre-party are fruity hunch punch drinks, Jimmy Buffett type drinks.
Yeah.
Right? I enjoyed several. And the same brain trust that decided to have the pre-party decided to charter a bus from the pre-party to the concert with a keg on the bus. I partook there as well. So when I got to the venue, I was feeling pretty good.
Your recorder was live then.
Feeling pretty good.
Hands to the left.
I was handed a slip of paper with the acts that are upcoming. Here's what you say. Tickets are on sale for this, blah, blah, blah. So then routinely before you bring on a band, their manager comes over to you, or their stage manager at least will come over to you and say, "You're going to the center mic. Don't touch it." The artist likes to go out and have the mic ready. He doesn't like to have to come out and adjust anything. And so that was the instruction I was given. You're going to the center mic. Don't touch it. Make your announcements. You're walking back off this way. I said, fine. Now, I'd had a few alcoholic beverages. So I'm feeling pretty good. So I'm walking out on stage, and I'm like, "Hey, everybody, I'm Jimbo from I-95," and a smattering of applause. And here's what's coming up, and this is coming up, and this show's on sale, and, and then I'm to bring out Jimmy Buffett and the Coral Reefer Band, right? So time comes to do that, and about then I realize that I'm way having to get short. I'm having to go down a few inches just to get to the microphone, and it just hit me, and I thought, man, this guy's short. But my filters were off, and I
said, "Damn, this guy's short."
Had a few beers, and I said, "Damn, this guy's short," into the microphone. And he heard it. And apparently a lot of his banker friends from Mobile were up, and he was ready to have a party, and I just called him short in front of all his friends. He did not like it. He didn't like it. And I think still doesn't like it. I really think he probably remembers that.
Did you walk past him when you came off? He was giving
Yeah. When I walked off stage, and there was this really gigantic, it was kind of in the shadows, and I couldn't really see much because of stage lights. Huge, tall guy, really short guy with a guitar on him. And the guy with the guitar on him, although I couldn't make out who he was, I found out who he was when he tapped me. I want you and all your little radio friends out of here. And then the big guy escorted us all out. And when I say out, I don't mean out from backstage. I mean out of the fence, back out to the bus. Goodbye. So we didn't even. It was a bad night.
Jimmy Buffett, Jimbo Wood, arch rivals.
I want to see it. You remember it was the MTV show, Casio, with the cage fighting and doing it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. What was that? You mean the claymation one?
Yeah.
What was it? Celebrity Deathmatch or something
like that?
That was classic. They did Jimbo and Jimmy Buffett. We got to get them in celebrity boxing like on Fox.
That's a great story. Those are two great stories. Well, guys, I don't want to take up any more of your time. I really appreciate you being so giving. Will you let everybody know what times of the day your show airs on 95.1 The Rocket, and how they can listen not only terrestrially but also I'm streaming online, and how they can connect with you? I'll tell you, folks, these guys are great follows on Twitter, social media, and Facebook and Instagram. If you haven't, check them out. I'll put their Twitter and social media handles in the comments below after the show. But tell us how they can find you on the show every morning.
Of course, if you're in the Tennessee Valley, 95.1 FM, 6 to 10 a.m. Central. You can listen to us there. You can go to therocket951.com as a website. All the social media for the station is at therocket951. That's Snapchat, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook.com/rocket951. Personal stuff, he's got at Jimbo Wood.
I'm at Jimbo Wood on almost everything except for Snapchat, and that's Jimbo Wood and then the number 1.
Because he tries to claim there's another Jimbo Wood, but I think it's because he forgot he created the first Jimbo Wood Snapchat and can't remember the password. So there's Jimbo Wood 1. I am at the Matt Mitchell on Instagram and Snapchat, Matt Mitchell on Facebook, and on Twitter, I'm at the Casio Kid. That's all our personal stuff, station stuff. And Mo, thank you for having us on, man. We had a blast today. Anytime you need us to kill some time, we'll come down here. And I can't wait, since you promised to take us out for a steak after this.
Yeah, appreciate it, Morris.
Well, don't mind the cops. They're going to be walking in the door right there.
I forgot about free TV.
We got to go to jail now.
Notice that the conference room that you're in has a door on each side, so there's no way for you to get out.
Who are these guys with visors on standing out here in SWAT masks? I don't know what they're doing.
Guys, thanks so much for everybody watching. Please like and share the show so we can spread the word of the Jimbo and Casio's great show, and to kind of some great advice that they shared about people that are wanting to get in the entertainment business, and certainly the great stories. And certainly if somebody knows Jimmy Buffett, please tag him in this video. Thanks, everybody.
Kick it.